Other big story right now for a landslide of evidence released in the case against Casey.
Yeah, just today, prosecutors released thousands of documents that include text messages, cell phone records, and several photos.
We do have team coverage of this big story. West 2's Bob Keeling focuses on a key player mentioned in today's documents, Casey's boyfriend, Tony Lazaro. But we start with West 2's Amanda Ober and the avalanche of evidence released just today. Amanda?
These documents, all 1,100 pages, include reports from various police agencies. They provide some new insight into the investigation, ranging from tips that turned into dead ends to a wiretap involving Casey's ex. The new documents show that Casey Anthony's boyfriend, Tony Lazaro, went undercover for the sheriff's office early in the investigation and wore a wiretap during a meeting he had with Casey's brother Lee. They also contain black and white copies of pictures posted by Casey on the website photobucket.com around the time Kaylee went missing. These are the same photos Casey's attorney has been fighting to keep private. They include photos of Casey appearing happy with friends, clip art of skulls, and there's one posting that reads, "I've been through a lot this year, but I'm going to hold my head up like my nose is bleeding." In an interview with James Hoover, one of the Anthony family's private investigators, Hoover says on the day Kaylee's remains were found, George Anthony had made comments to him about problems in his marriage to Cindy. Hoover also said during the Anthony stay at the Ritz-Carlton in the following days, he was uncomfortable with the intimate relationship developing between Cindy Anthony and another private investigator, Dominic Casey. Hoover described the two of them as holding hands and running their hands up and down each other's arms in view of George. And the documents reveal investigators went all over the state to follow up on possible sightings of Kaylee. Their stops range from a church in Lakeland to a dumpster in Boynton Beach, where a tipster had reported a foul odor. Now, investigators even went as far south as Miami after one tipster told them Casey had been involved in a prostitution ring and had left Kaylee with another prostitute. Needless to say, that turned out to be a dead end. Now, coming up on West 2 News at 5, I'll tell you about some possible new evidence in these documents that could help prove Zanny the nanny never existed. Live in the newsroom, Amanda Ober, West 2 News.
More right now on the man who was closest to Casey while her daughter was missing. Tony Lazaro has resurfaced in these documents in a big way. Lazaro agreed to have his phone tapped and wear a wire during a meeting with Lee Anthony. But that's not all. West 2's Bob Keeling continues her team coverage of this big story. And Bob, why all of this secret recording?
Well, Martha, Tony Lazaro has been working with investigators who've been trying to find a smoking gun. Now, in these documents, while there are more tantalizing details about Casey, the smoking gun is not here. Tony, do you think Casey is capable of hurting Kaylee? One morning, Tony Lazaro told investigators he awoke to find Casey Anthony watching on a laptop the last known video of Kaylee. Casey was crying. It's important because this was the period before Casey had told anyone her daughter was even missing. Also, Lazaro talked about the 2 times Casey ran out of gas in the same critical week. June 23rd, about a week after investigators believe Kaylee died, Lazaro delivered a pair of gas cans to Casey along the road, not far from her home. Lazaro told investigators there was no stench coming from Casey's car, and he was not able to see the bottom of the trunk to know if Kaylee's body could have been inside. Also, Lazaro provided new details about picking Casey up at the Amscot just 4 days later. It was June 27th, and she'd run out of gas again. He told investigators Casey jumped into his car and he never got out. 3 days later, Amscot employees had Casey's car towed away. For the first time, we've learned that Lazaro consented to have his phone tapped and wear a wire during a late July meeting with Lee Anthony. In their taped conversation, Lee acknowledged never having seen or met a babysitter named Zenaida or Zanny. But there was nothing to indicate Casey had made any admissions to Lee about Kaylee's disappearance. And this afternoon, a spokeswoman for Jose Baez told me they didn't really see anything of much importance in today's documents. All new at 5, we'll show you Roy Cronk's map that he drew for investigators, showing them specifically where he found Kaylee's remains. Jim?
Bob, thanks a lot. Our coverage of the case against Casey continues on WESH.com. I'm here live in the newsroom with web editor John Cutter. And, John, we have this special section dedicated to this whole case.
Right. One of the things we tried to do today was take all these hundreds of pages of documents and break them up into parts just to make it a little easier for you to navigate. So what we did was we took different things. For example, here's some information about Anthony Lazzaro. You can click on that, and that would open up the PDF, the information that's exactly from the document. You can look at it yourself. That's a map that Roy Kronk drew for investigators. Here's a transcript of the interview that was done with Casey Anthony with the day she was arrested. We have all this information on the web, and if you want to go back and catch up on the case, we do have a special case against Casey Anthony section.
You know, it's real easy to navigate, and the thing that I like is that it really does take you to the original documents. You can do your own homework. You can do your own research.
Right, and that's the thing that people tell us about the web. They want to look at the source material themselves. They want to look at it and see what's there.
All right, good work here, John. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jim.